Hi, and welcome to another day of doing the Leetcode or the Neetcode 150. So we're doing problem 3 in arrays and hashing today, which is two-sum, which is one of the most popular problems on Leetcode. It is problem number 1. So given an array of integers, nums, and an integer, target, return indices of the two numbers such that they add up to target. You may assume that each input would have exactly one solution, and you may not use the same element twice. You can return the answer in any order. So if we look at the example, we can see we have a list of 2, 7, 11, and 15, and we're given a target of 9. And the output will be a list with 0 and 1. This is because index 0, which is 2, and index 1, which is 7, both add up to 9. Yeah, so it's pretty straightforward problem. I would be lying if I said I hadn't seen this problem before. But yeah, there's basically there's a way to brute force this problem, which would be to iterate through each element in the list, and then iterate through every other element, and get the sum and see if it matches the target, and then you would know if you have the answer. So we'd, for example, 2, and then we'd iterate through, we'd iterate through once, we'd start at 2, we'd iterate through again, starting at 7, and then we'd immediately see that 7 plus 2 is 9, so we'd get the answer. But if that wasn't the case, then we'd go to 2 and 11, and then 2 and 15, and then we go to 7, 7, 2, 7, 11, 7, 15, 11, 2, 11, 7, 11, 15, and so on. So the more intuitive way to solve this, the better way to solve this would be to actually use the difference and to make a hash map. So if we take the target and we subtract it from an element in the list, we'll get the difference. So 9 minus 2 would be 7. Then we could have basically a hash map where we put numbers, or where we put elements from our list, and if we have that difference in our hash map, that means we've seen it before, and we can immediately know that we have a solution. So, for example, let me just make some comments here. So if we had a hash map, we'd start with 2, so 9 minus 2 would be 7. And so we'd check our hash map to see if we have 7, and we wouldn't. So then we'd move on to the next number in the list, which would be 7. We'd do 9 minus 7, or actually before we move on to the next one, we'd put 2 into our hash map with its index, which is 0. So then we'd move on to the next one, which would be 9 minus 7, which equals 2. And then we'd check our hash map for 2. We'd immediately see, oh, hey, we've seen 2 before. We know that it's somewhere in the list, and we actually have its index stored as the value. So we could immediately just return the index that we're looking at, which would be the 7, 1, and the index in our hash map of 2, which is 0. So yeah, let's code this up. So we'll start by creating our hash map, and then we're going to iterate through our list. So for each num in nums, we will calculate the difference. So difference equals our target minus num, and then we will check if that difference is in our hash map. So if in hm, then what we can do is we can immediately return the index that we're currently looking at, which, using this type of for loop, we don't actually have access to the index, so we'd have to do in Python, we'd have to enumerate this, and that will give us access to the current index. So we would return the hash map of the difference, if we found it, and the index. So if it's not in the hash map, then we want to place the current number that we're looking at and its index into the hash map. So we would want to say hash map num. So this first one that we'd be looking at would be 2, and then we'd want it to be the current index, so I. And then this should, because we have the return statement here, and there's always going to be exactly one solution, this should always trigger, we should always find it. So this should be the code. Let's run it. And there we go, it's accepted. So we can submit this, see if there's any issues. And there we go. So very fast. Yeah, and that's how to avoid doing the brute force method. Yeah, so see you for question number 4.